Hello, my name is Alyssa Zhao, and I'm a junior staffer presenting on International Cybersecurity Risk Management Frameworks. In particular, I'll be focusing on the National Institute of Standards and Technology Cybersecurity Framework and its adaptations and relations to foreign countries. The goal of this presentation is to provide context about NIST Cybersecurity Framework, or CSF, on a global scale, analyzing how other countries have adopted and benefited from the CSF and what we can learn from its international engagement, especially when we consider moving forward with further developing the CSF. I will first provide an executive summary regarding big picture action items for NIST to consider when thinking about the CSF in a global context. Then I will provide a quick background on NIST CSF. We will then explore a deeper look into two countries, Japan and Italy, and their experiences with the CSF. And finally, based on these two experiences, I'll provide recommendations reflecting upon how the framework has succeeded and what can be done to improve the framework for international outreach. The key concerns regarding international engagement of cybersecurity risk management frameworks is regarding accessibility and adaptability of pre-existing frameworks. As such, it is important to keep in mind how NIST CSF can broadly apply to industries and businesses of any type, especially beyond critical infrastructure, how governments and businesses can be prepared to adopt cybersecurity frameworks to enhance education materials, and how the CSF can be improved reflecting international adaptations and contributions. Before we dive any deeper, I would first like to go over the background of the cybersecurity framework that NIST has developed. In 2013, President Obama signed an executive order tasking NIST to create a cybersecurity framework. Rather than a one-size-fits-all solution, NIST created a high-level voluntary framework for organizations to adapt to specific needs. Then in 2017, President Trump signed an executive order which requires federal agencies to adopt the CSF. The CSF core is split into 5 functions, as you can see here: identity, protect, detect, respond, and recover. In addition, the CSF also includes implementation tiers to determine the degree of approach needed to address cybersecurity risks, as well as the profile of outcomes that an organization determines on their own based on their own needs. Over the past several years, NIST has also been developing the CSF 2.0, which has been welcomed to public feedback with the goals of broadening the framework for all industries to use. Throughout the development of the CSF 2.0, NIST has continued to welcome international engagement to continue making changes, with more than 100 countries engaging through the process. Speaking of international engagement, although NIST designed the CSF in an American context, the framework has the potential to have an international impact. Cybersecurity risks can pose a threat regardless of a country's borders, such as threats to international supply chain or risks to global citizen safety. On the other hand, the CSF has the potential to promote cyber peace as well across borders by providing a defined standard for various contexts, such as concerns regarding international cybersecurity policy. As of today, the CSF has been translated over a dozen languages and has been adapted by a number of countries in Europe, Asia, and South America. For example, the image pictured here is the Israeli government's adaptation of the CSF, a now widely implemented framework among academic, economic, and political contexts within Israel. NIST continues to extend its outreach to the international community and encourages foreign organizations to participate in the framework, welcoming international perspectives. To further explore how the CSF has been utilized to benefit countries' unique cybersecurity needs, I will next provide examples of Japan and Italy and how they have engaged with the CSF. So first, let's look into Japan. Compared to the US's work culture, Japan's work culture faces a number of unique challenges when it comes to cybersecurity. For example, Japanese companies rotate employees every 2 to 3 years, so there are difficulties in accumulating cybersecurity expertise because people aren't able to accumulate that expertise in the first place. Another significant barrier to expertise is that Japan also has a high reliance on outsourcing IT and cybersecurity work. As you can see in this graph, nearly 75% of IT professionals are outsourced in Japan, compared to approximately 30% in the US. So this lack of in-house expertise also makes it difficult to become experts in cybersecurity. As such, companies in Japan have difficulty quickly adapting to changes in cybersecurity, and the baseline issue that needed to be addressed was defining and training proper cybersecurity talents. As such, the NIST framework provided the means to communicate about cybersecurity across diverse business industries in Japan. As Masato Kimura, senior cybersecurity manager at Japanese telecom giant NTT, stated, "A common language is needed to apply to all sectors." As such, Japan embraced the CSF as a cross-sector language for cybersecurity and became the first country to translate the framework into another language in 2014 through a cybersecurity committee, the first time Japan had worked on a cross-sector initiative to address cybersecurity as well. Thus, the CSF was able to provide a shared definition and understanding of cybersecurity needs, incorporating these developments into Japanese cybersecurity strategy and facilitating global communication among government and industry professionals. The next steps for Japan are to develop a training program to cultivate and best use cybersecurity talent. Given the success of the CSF in Japan, this example exemplifies how the framework can be useful in a foreign context, even one with notable workforce differences compared to the United States. Next, we turn to Italy and its adaptation of the CSF. Small and medium enterprises, or SMEs, make up a significant portion of Italy's economic system, unlike the United States and its critical infrastructure. However, they also face additional difficulties due to a lack of expertise and experience, as these small and medium enterprises lack proper resources to be properly engaged in cybersecurity. In response to these concerns, the proposed Italian national framework for cybersecurity is based on the NIST CSF, which is specifically developed for organizations of any size with a focus on SMEs in Italy. The Italian framework uses the base of the NIST CSF with the core, the profiles, and the implementation tiers, but it also adds 3 additional concepts: priority levels, maturity levels, and contextualization. So priority levels and maturity levels are able to identify how serious a cybersecurity risk is, as well as a measure of how mature the company is in terms of security processes. And contextualization also helps the company define the path they need to take for their cybersecurity needs. And so these concepts address both limited experience and limited resources SMEs face, as cost is, for example, a major barrier in cybersecurity. And this allows organizations to dedicate how the resources should be used regarding cybersecurity. As such, the proposed framework and its added concepts can help smaller organizations properly define an economic and cost-effective path towards security that takes into account the needs and maturity of the company. On an international level, Italy has also recognized the advantages of the framework for legal concerns between countries, with the framework providing a means to identify to what degree an organization has done to minimize cyber risk. Hence the duty of care that the quote here from the University of Rome and the Cybersecurity National Lab of Italy have detailed. The application of the CSF in Italy has illuminated a number of ways that the framework can be used for both smaller organizations and for a global context as a standard for risk management. From these 2 examples, we can notice some commonalities. Most notably, the NIST framework provides a globally shared language to define cybersecurity risks. As we've seen, the framework can be easily adapted to foreign contexts. With Japan, the language used in the NIST framework facilitated cross-sector communication, and Italy highlights the potential for the framework to globally define cybersecurity efforts. The framework's broad flexibility also allows for companies to update the CSF based on specific needs, as seen by Japan's move to create a training program, and Italy refocusing the framework for their economy's SMEs. Now, reflecting on this, the question turns to what can be done to improve the framework, especially regarding accessibility, leading to the questions of education and training, international public engagement, and bilateral communication between the US and foreign perspectives. As previously mentioned, the NIST has been developing the CSF 2.0 with its new core pictured here. The goal for the CSF 2.0 is to broaden the context of its former iterations. I believe this is a great step forward for the CSF. As we saw with Italy, the focus on SMEs was an important step in adapting the framework. So, increasing the scope of the framework to reflect use by all organizations beyond critical infrastructure and beyond the United States more accurately captures international use cases and just use cases in general. Another important point of the development would be education, training, and guidance regarding CSF implementation. With organizations or countries with limited experience regarding cybersecurity risk, such as Japan's rotating workforce or SMEs in general, developing a robust training program would address the issue of the CSF's barrier of accessibility. As of now, the CSF 2.0 hopes to provide more guidance on how to apply the framework, providing examples and templates of action-oriented steps to achieve organizations' cybersecurity goals. But a dedicated training program beyond current available resources could be very beneficial for organizations and governments to embolden them to be more confident in applying these cybersecurity risk management frameworks. Finally, the NIST can work to further incorporate and reflect international contributions. NIST should incorporate lessons learned from how foreign countries have adapted the framework to fit their needs, specifically highlighting use cases and points of improvement for the framework. Although the CSF 2.0 has been modified to reflect broader use and iterate upon public feedback, as you can see in this wide-ranging timeline here with a proposed publishing in February 2024, so very soon, NIST should also incorporate explicit language in the framework and publicity surrounding international use cases and benefits in order to encourage international engagement. This way, again, foreign countries may be more encouraged to adopt the framework as an international standard and a way for them to apply the framework in their cross-sector needs. In addition, I also wanted to address some concerns regarding the CSF. One main criticism of the CSF is that it is a voluntary framework, which therefore weakens its effectiveness. However, the framework being voluntary actually allows for organization-based flexibility, as they're able to define their needs without having to follow a strict mandate. In addition, as we've seen, countries have benefited from choosing to adopt the framework, which serves as a model for the potential benefits of international translations and adaptations in the future. Another criticism of the CSF is that it's mainly useful for critical infrastructure and not many other industries. However, with the development of the CSF 2.0 and the shift toward broader use cases, this concern becomes less relevant as the CSF has been shown to benefit cross-sector engagement with companies of various sizes. As we saw of Japan and Italy, the CSF was able to apply to not just critical infrastructure, but to a wide range of companies and organizations. And so the concern regarding critical infrastructure becomes less relevant, especially as the 2.0 is being adopted. As we have also seen, the CSF provides many benefits for global cybersecurity risk management, including its flexibility, comprehensive methodology, and globally shared language in a rapidly developing cyberspace environment. Even though it was created within an American context, the framework can provide a commonly recognized guidance on what cybersecurity risk management can be. The CSF has the potential to benefit the international cyberspace, and this potential has already been recognized by foreign governments so far. However, when thinking about how to encourage increased international engagement beyond the current situation, the question turns to accessibility. To summarize, I highly recommend the NIST takes into consideration how the CSF can be applied for all kinds of global organizations, how organizations can best prepare for and use the CSF, and how to best incorporate international perspectives when further developing and framing the CSF, as we look towards a 2.0 version being published and improved upon in the future. These are my sources, and thank you for your time.